UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jenn Durrell.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
Well, it was a sad week this week. I mean, good grief. I know we normally start chatting by talking about the trivial things in our life, which are important to everybody. Has things in their life which are important, but I think there are moments that serve as wake-ups to everybody. We can be laughing or crying or having a good time or a bad time, but most of the time, 99% of the time, those concerns or, humorous moments are pretty insignificant. But this week, one of our favorite guests we've ever had on Talking Weird passed, which was just terrible. Johnny Henderson.
Yes.
Who I didn't know Johnny well. I like Johnny a lot. It's why I reached out to have him on the show. And I actually mentioned, if people go back and watch that show, I made a point of telling him and his son Elijah, who survives him,
and his daughter,
Gabrielle, I think her name is, and they recently lost their mother. I mean, Johnny's wife had not passed that long ago, right? And so Elijah and Gabrielle's mother too, to lose both parents that close together, because they're not like, I lost my father and I was, in my 40s. And that was hard enough. I can only imagine. I don't know how old Elijah is. I'm guessing early 20s or something. I don't know. But it's certainly not the time in your life you want to be losing a parent. Not that any time in your life is when you want to be losing a parent, but you certainly, it's harder, I think, probably the younger you are, the ramifications it means. But anyway, even on that show, I said, if anybody goes back and watches it, I complimented them. I don't know.
Sorry.
That's another issue which I won't talk about at the moment.
We won't do that one.
I agree with that statement, but
I love the name though. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think that even in that show, I didn't know them that well. I didn't know Johnny or Elijah.
Yeah,
when I asked them to be on the show, I'd watched their videos on YouTube, and I was aware of the Cryptid Studies Institute, their organization. But I commented and said, "You guys have always seemed so gentlemanly and sincere," and they seemed like some of the really good guys in the broader field that we talk about every week here on this show. So it felt. Again, even though I didn't know Johnny well, I felt particularly sad when I heard of his passing, more so than I probably would have a lot of people in this field. Not that I want anybody to die, but there was something really tragic. And knowing that Elijah survived him. Anyway, I know that Johnny didn't have any life insurance and I don't think there was a lot of money left, probably no money left to pay for a funeral. So I made a donation that I could afford the other day, which wasn't a fortune, to be honest. I don't have a whole lot of money, but I still made a donation. If anybody out there wants to help the children give their father a decent funeral, and anybody who out there's a friend or a fan of the Cryptid Studies Institute or of Johnny or Elijah, you can PayPal them. They would go. I think I saw Bart Nunnally originally post it. There wasn't time to set up a GoFundMe because GoFundMe takes some time, but there's a direct PayPal where
I'm going to try and show it here in a second.
Yeah, it's just I believe on PayPal you can just go in there and just search Cryptid Studies and it will pop up Johnny Henderson. Or you can actually put the email address in, which is cryptidstudiesinstitute@gmail.com. But either of those on PayPal will find the Johnny Henderson account. And if you can spare anything, I'm not somebody who normally pushes GoFundMes or, various people's, Kickstarters or whatever. But this is something a little bit different. And I think that
might help a little bit.
It would be nice to pay respects to somebody who was one of the good guys and to take care of his ability for his children to pay for the funeral the way I would want somebody to be able to step in and help with me if somebody couldn't pay for my funeral. My daughter survived me, so. So anyway, I know that's not an exciting start to the show, but I think it's an important start. I don't think we could have started it any other way. Also, you put it on screen. That's awesome.
Yeah, I put down what you had on your page, and this is what it looks like when you get to it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go into PayPal, you can go to, I think you can just go to the Talking Weird page or the Charles Fort group, or if you're friends with me on Facebook, go to my page and just scroll down a couple of stories and you'll find, or Barton Nunnally has it on his page. I just shared Barton Nunnally's link.
Yeah, that's what I showed.
That's an easy way to do it. Yeah, you can, if you don't want to type in cryptid studies, or you don't want to type in Cryptid Studies Institute at gmail.com, you can just link through on our social pages. But I think if you have any money to spare, it's a decent thing to do. And I think you cut maybe a little video together before we get to the show.
Yeah, it's not finished because
I know you're busy.
No, I'm just easily distracted. It's my attention deficit. So
but if you have it,
it's okay. But I could show part of it.
Yeah, why don't you share some? Just so this is just from when Johnny and Elijah were on the show. Less than 2
Yeah, I'm
months
wanting to do highlights of it and then re-air it and put it back.
Yeah,
on,
well, we can put it up on
add
YouTube,
music,
Facebook later for people to watch. But
it.
since we're talking about Johnny, it might be might be nice to put it up.
So I need to share. It takes me a moment. Can you see? Yes. We'll get bigger.
Bring as much truthful research to the field as we can.
Let me stop this a second. I'm not sure if I hit audio.
Oh no, I could hear it.
You could hear it? Are you sure it wasn't through my microphone though?
I don't know. To mute your microphone, I'll give you a thumbs up if I can still hear it.
I'm going to just redo it.
But I mean, the thing, this isn't that long ago. This show was only like
July,
a month and a half ago or something.
It wasn't long ago. I double checked. Yeah.
What was the date?
July.
Gosh, things can change so quickly.
So,
but we try to bring as much truthful research to the field as we can. We don't charge people for it. I know there are groups that charge people to take them out in the field and go and look for a Bigfoot or whatever, and we don't do that. We don't try to set on information for Patreon money. If we get information, we try to share it. They heard a commotion, and the dad and the son, started like in a bit of turmoil, heading back to the vehicle. The young boy Stephen was trying to come around and get in the door, and the dad went to the passenger's or the driver's side and retrieved a shotgun behind the seat. And turns out a creature was coming up out of the holler behind them, and they were trying to get inside and get away from it. Well, before Levi could get the shotgun, one of the creature had already grabbed Stephen, and he commenced to trying to free his son and shot the creature, but some of the pellets ended up hitting Stephen in the shoulder as well, and the creature finished Stephen off, and then ran up on Dad and started to attack him as well. And unfortunately, he died in the melee as well. And the creature turned and started coming back. About the time that Roger opened the door and saw the creature coming, he just instinctively fired with 410
crack shot,
and break barrel, and hit the creature in the right side, upper neck and stuff. And it went down on its left side, jumped up, and ran off down in the holler. And about that time, the girls started clamoring that it was coming through the window. So a second one was coming through the back window on the vehicle and attacked them. At that point, Roger panicked, and since he only had the one shell, he just, I guess, threw the shotgun down and rolled under the vehicle and wedged himself between the drive shaft and the vehicle until everything was over. And when things calmed down, he ran away for help. That's kind of in a nutshell. Man, I'm not even supposed to be talking about this yet.
Are you going for it?
I'm going for it a little bit. I'm going to tell you something that
We rarely ever mention
a
this on
friend
the
of
show.
ours. Well, no, not that. A friend of ours was down there recently, and he got a photograph, and he don't want to talk about it because there's so much conflict in the cryptid realm. He don't want to get drug into it, but he was in the area and went down to do some research, and either something was trying to creep up on them or they heard a noise in the woods. I can't remember exactly how the story went, but he had thermal and he turned it to the darker setting where everything's kind of almost a black and white thermal.
Mm-hmm.
And he got something while something was creeping up on one side or making noise in one area. He got a picture of something in thermal, and I promise you it looked like something from the movie The Howling.
Wow.
Literally, you can see the ears, you can see the muzzle, but I'm not allowed to show those pictures to anybody because he doesn't want them seen, him and his partner, because he don't want to get caught up in some kind of controversy with people, because everybody's got to question everything.
Yeah.
But that has lit a fire under me so bad that I want to keep going back and researching it. And I can't wait until it cools off so we can spend significant time down there again.
There have been some reports that come out of there that the beast has a bit of a hyena-ish appearance. This thing, its ears almost have kind of the same kind of roundness that a hyena's ears does. So it looks very similar.
But it reminded me more of like one of the werewolves off the original Howling movie than anything. And
film.
Yes, and he's tried every way to figure out a natural excuse for what he filmed, and has yet to be able to do it. He's not wanting to jump right to, I got a picture of the beast of LBL. He's trying to think, well, is this a tree stump or something? There's no way. You can see the muzzle. You can see the arch of the back as it's like creeping up over the hill. You can see the ears, the shape of the head. And like I said, it has just lit a fire under me. I cannot wait till I can go spend enough time there to really encounter this thing.
Hopefully that picture will surface fairly soon.
Yeah, that's something strange about the LBL. It's not uncommon to find abandoned, mangled tents around the park, and recently there's a Facebook page called LBL Abandoned Sites and Cemeteries. Well, somebody found a tent that was torn up and collapsed around. Leaves had settled all over it. So this had to have been from back in the fall. But yet all the fishing rods were still there, all the cookware and everything. People do not just abandon their tents with all their equipment there. And just a couple of days after it was reported on there, the site was scrubbed and cleaned up perfect where you can't tell that there was ever a tent there.
Anything should you encounter one of these things?
We don't worry too much.
I don't worry about it. Just, like I was telling you before the show, my wife recently passed away. If something grabs me, it just sends me to my wife's arms quicker. So,
also, if you got attacked by it, I mean, I don't want to be insensitive to anybody, but that's one of the coolest ways you could go out.
Yeah, if you gotta die, can you imagine a better death than that?
I mean, you could go out in a really lame way,
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather get mauled by a dog man than just be hit by a tobacco truck crossing a street or something. I mean, that'd be some bragging rights. Come on. We all got to die from something. It might as well be dramatic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I stopped. No, I've got other stuff I was going to add.
No, I think that's a perfect ending for the clip. Although the screen's still on screen, if you want to.
I'm getting that.
I think. Well, I mean, Johnny, I'm sure, is with his wife now. He was.
Oh, I'm sure.
He was a gentleman and a devout Christian. I have no doubt that he's with Jesus and with his wife now. So
yeah.
I hope if his family listen to this at all, they can take some consolation in knowing that. Anyway, R.I.P. Johnny Henderson. You're one of the good guys.
Yes.
And again, just before we stop chatting about Johnny, if people can afford anything, Cryptid Studies at PayPal. You can search for that, or Cryptid Studies Institute at gmail.com. You can search for that too on PayPal. Either of those should take you to the Johnny Henderson account. And if you could spare anything, Elijah seems like one of the good guys too. Let's take some stress off a young man. I think even his younger sister, she's certainly around the same age as Elijah, to take two essentially orphaned kids now, really. I mean, they're in their early 20s, but still. In fact, I'm not sure of either of their ages, but they're certainly young, too young to have lost both parents. So if you can help anybody listening, please do. So thank you.
Yes.
Well, that was probably the saddest opening to a Talking Weird I've ever done, but important nonetheless.
I'm sure.
Okay, no, well, that was the gentleman who said Australia needs freedom or Australia needs liberty.
Yeah.
I try to keep politics out of this, but I totally agree with you. There's an awful lot of tyranny going around at the moment, and I think that people need to realize that there does need to be people standing up and saying this isn't liberty and this isn't freedom. But before I turn this into InfoWars or the Rush Limbaugh, the late great
I
Rush
want to do
Limbaugh
that
show,
one. Nope, let's not go on to that rant.
Tucker Carlson or something. I think I'll leave the politics behind, particularly given that we just lost Johnny. So how was your week, baby? What did you get up to? Tell me something exciting. Tell me some good news.
Well,
thank you for listening, Joe Fox. Sure.
Yes, we love Joe. I'll go through these real quick. The people that said hello first. And Ken said hello. And then there's Jenna.
Oh, thank you, Jenna.
Yes, her daughter Bailey is besties with my daughter. So.
Well, there you go. Family and friends. My folks are no doubt listening as well. Hey, Marinelle, thanks for listening. So tell me something about your week, though, and then we'll come back to some messages.
Well, my week is quite uneventful. I didn't end up getting to work this week because my son Wyatt actually was positive with COVID on Monday. So where I live, he's doing fine. Good. He's doing better. I mean, he doesn't have the fever. He's just dealing with the extra that comes along with it. He actually happened to test when he was with his dad. So he stayed with his dad. It wasn't until yesterday that I got Josie because she was tested. Yes. And she was negative. And I tested twice this week. Both were negative. So that way, I'll just grab Josie, one less kid to watch over, and Josie can go back to school quicker than Wyatt. So, well,
I'm been praying for Wyatt to recover, but I've certainly been praying for you and Josie as well as I know my family have. So I'm glad that you guys have dodged COVID.
I've been doing okay. I've been feeling sick here and there, which is kind of weird that I've got negatives.
Well, this is I don't even understand the testing. Are they PCR tests? Because I've heard various things on.
Okay, so the first test I took was called an antigen test.
Okay.
And it's the one you can actually order, and you can have it sent to your house. It's like called Buy Now or something like that.
Okay.
And you just swab your nose, put it in some solution or whatever, and then it eventually tells you negative or positive. So
I don't know what actually enough about the minutia of testing to comment.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to avoid going off on one of my political rants.
I know, so we're not going to do that.
That poor Jen suffers on the phone way too often. The listeners don't need to suffer it.
I'd say the second one was that PCR test, which is still a rapid test, but at least it's where they actually go up in the nose and send.
But I think they're the ones that and no, I'm not going to go down the slippery slope.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I ain't doing it. But there was something more exciting. You bought a book and you bought a deck of cards. Or you bought a deck of cards. You didn't get the book yet.
Yes, I'm going to get the book. So today, Josie and I were tired of being in the house. We went somewhere that wasn't busy. And plus the lady that owns the place, as soon as she gets so many people in there, she locks it. No one else is allowed to come in. So she's super not COVID, doesn't want. Yeah. So anyways, we were in there today. And I got me this.
Right away, baby.
And there's something weird going on with my camera. Everything's orange. So if anybody knows why my camera is doing that, please
It's
let me
peeking
know.
into like the other
brick.
dimension behind the.
Why is it brick? No. It's not even brick. It's yellow. Why is it brick?
I don't know. It's devil's work, baby. That's
why is it brick? Doesn't it look like brick? Is it?
It
just
looks
me?
like something strange is going on with a hologram. I know there's no hologram on that box, but it looks like there's some weird hologram which changes as.
What is going on with my camera?
I don't know why it's finding brick there. Maybe you've got some weird like green screen box ticked or something,
No,
which
the
is
green
trying
screen's
to.
not on. I don't know. It's yellow, by the way.
Yeah. That's
anyway.
that's as I mentioned to you before. I had 2 tarot decks back in the day, but that was my favorite tarot deck. That was the deck that I thought it seemed to have the most resonate with the most genuine. Maybe just because I'd seen it in a lot of movies and horror shows and things when I was growing up. But no, I don't do tarot anymore. I don't go for any of that newfangled devil's work. But it's a fascinating deck. Sorry,
the cards are. I hear everything's going to turn funny colors.
Yeah, that's a good looking deck. And I think there's something to tarot. I think, I'm certainly skeptical, and I'm also always concerned about what the reality is behind various occult practices. But there's a resonance with tarot decks, but there's particularly a resonance with that deck. And I think people like Carl Jung would see archetypal power in those images. So maybe even any potential to read fortune aside, there might be a very real resonance with imagery which is so strong at a subconscious level that somehow it opens doorways for us to see an alternative. And one of our other favorite guests, who is still with us, thankfully, Ed Schultz, just said hello, mates. Hello, Ed.
We got Ed.
I know Ed's got some books coming out, so we need to have him back on sometime soon. But so, are you enjoying fiddling around with the rider weight or the weight rider, or how? I think.
Well, I haven't got to mess with it too much, but the only reason why I got it was because you had told me that it was the easier one, the good one. Everybody else I've talked with has said that to start with that book because it's better to. Well, you can actually tell what the picture is. Like the first book I got was this.
I can't quite. My vision's so poor. Hang on, let me make you big.
Tarot.
Hold it up. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's one of those many.
Yeah, and it comes with a book. So it has the book in it. Of course, everything.
So you got the book and you got the deck of the Wildwood Tarot. Is that correct? So you got the deck and that book. There you go. Answered my question.
What am I picking here? So
it's the brick
let's
deck.
Look at this. So the first one I grabbed was what? Knights of Stones. Don't know what that means.
See, that's because it's. I don't know what it's. That would be.
And then 2 of Vessels, Attraction.
So the 2 of Cups would be the 2 of Vessels, and the 2 of Stones would be. What's that in the?
I don't know. Those first ones that came out.
It's not 2 of. I'm trying to think.
That's why I want to learn how to do it.
I won't spend too long. I haven't played around with tarot for a long time because I'm I'm not wired to do occulty things anymore, but I certainly was. Well,
I know.
You know, baby, it's all devil's work to me. But I do find it interesting. The tarot's always fascinated me.
He used to do a little tarot.
Ed used to do it. So
now I need to bug Ed.
There you go. I used to do. I both Ed and I apparently both did a little tarot back in the day. Different to a little tango. Although I can imagine Ed dancing the tango as he's quite the gentleman. So maybe next time we have Ed on, we need to do a little tarot chat.
Mothman 46.
Oh, it's the home of the Braxton Monster. Mothman 46 is a regular. Listener says hello from.
I've seen lots of pictures of that on Facebook.
It's the 69th anniversary of the Braxton Monster.
Yes, Seth Breedlove posted pictures of his son in front of the. So they must be at that. this weekend, I think.
Oh, is there a festival?
There's something. Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures of that today.
There's a lot of. I know
Pretty
some
cool.
have been cancelled, but there's quite a. Mothman got cancelled recently, right? If I recall, the
I
Mothman
know it.
Festival. And ours is the one we were going to 2 or 3 weeks ago in Iowa as good as got cancelled because I couldn't go.
Are you Australian, Dean?
I am Australian, Gemma. Yes, that's where I hail from. Although in here I'm 100% American.
Yes.
Although
He loves America.
not that I don't love Australia. Australia has a lot of great things going for it. Although at the moment I wouldn't want to be living under the tyranny which is
Right. I
descended
wouldn't either.
upon
I don't think
my home
anybody.
country. Again, no politics. I was trying not to do politics, but
No.
I do love the United States of America. It certainly suits my personality, I think.
Okay, I'm just going to say one thing. I'm not going to get you into a rant.
Mhm.
I was
I'm
watching
going to
a
control
video
the rant, baby.
on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay. And there's a lady, I don't know if she's the mayor, who she is, but she was talking about the new app, right? She literally said, she called it the New World Order. Like
It's in
4
New South
times.
Wales Health Minister, I think it was somebody like that, wasn't I? lost track of
It was her
politicians.
words.
there.
Nobody put those words in her mouth. She literally said that. Okay.
Yeah,
We're
the
done.
new apps for the New World Order. Mind you, what's the mayor out of Chicago? Lightfoot or whatever she is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, another little tyrant. But she's also talked about your allegiance to the New World Order. So these are the things which were crazy conspiracy theory back in the day. So when you hear it, mind you, George Bush used to talk about
come true lately.
George Bush Sr. used to talk about the New World Order in speeches and things. So who knows? I certainly, again, geez, it's so hard to avoid politics at the moment.
That's why I was like, I'll zip it after that one, but it made me think of it.
What, Ed? Why haven't we booked you to talk? I think we would have booked you tonight if we'd known your book was launching then. So Ed Schultz, who's one of our regular guests, he's been on a couple times, and we're going to have him on again
3
soon. His book, Be Still and Know, as you can see on the screen, those watching this. Could you bring that up for me once more, Jen? Because I was right reading it. Be Still and Know, a practical guide to Christian meditation. Will be available September 16th. So that's like 5 days away or something. And I believe it'll be available on Amazon, as far as I know. Ed has a number of books coming out soon and is full of wisdom. I was talking to somebody, a friend in Australia the other day who never watched or listened to the podcast. Happened to listen to an Ed one as the first one she ever listened to. I guess she's just scrolling through and what was interesting. She's like, oh, he was so interesting. And yes, Ed Schultz is interesting and full of all kinds of esoteric and as well as practical life knowledge. It is available on Amazon. So check out Ed Schultz's new book, and Ed will have you on soon to talk about it.
Yes.
Anyway, Ed, if for those who haven't listened to the show regularly, used to be an exorcist for Ed and Lorraine Warren. And he's done he was known as the psychic priest back in the day, and he's done all kinds has a background in hypnotism and silver mind control method and being an actual priest who was an exorcist. So every time Ed's on, it's a fun ride. You never quite know what kind of corner of the weird or the paranormal we're going to go to. Oh, thanks, Ken. Yeah, if you want to check out any of Ed's old interviews, I think they're both up on YouTube or at talkingweird.com. You can find either of them. They're all fascinating.
3.
What's that?
3. The first one was just a podcast. The second one was I think our second live stream video.
Sure, right. So we've had him on 3 times.
And then the other time was just recently, in June. Yeah, because I just did the June highlights.
He's our most frequent guest then. I thought he was one of our most frequent guests, but we've only ever done other people twice. He is our most frequent guest. We love you, Ed.
Yes, we did.
So anyway, tarot, what else is news? Any other?
Well, I missed another convention tonight. I was so bummed. We were supposed to go to a convention for my birthday in Iowa. That one didn't happen. And then this weekend, I was going to go to the one that's just 40 minutes from my house. And it was fall into the Supernatural. Paranormal Task Force here in Missouri was putting it on. So, yeah.
I would have liked to have gone to that with you as well. We have to find another one nearby we can both go to.
He's got to put babies.
Oh, You're the third baby.
I'm
If there was a
choosing.
third baby in the mix, you'd be
Yes,
baby
it's
number
got to
3.
be Ed.
But no, we need to get to a convention again sometime
I
soon.
know.
That'd be fun. It's been way too long. I don't know
Yeah.
if I have any paranormal or weird news. And I think I didn't know you were going to say this, but you posted, Jen, if anybody wanted to ask anything about us, they can. So if there's any,
Oh, yeah.
or if you want to ask us about our opinion on anything, anybody out there listening, we can't always address people who send us messages on screen. You're not doing that little tick attack thing that goes underneath.
No, I'm using what comes up on StreamYard.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
So,
just
well,
clicking it.
that's
I'm not
fine.
looking at my phone. I'm not.
No, but normally there's a little thing that runs around because you run it. For those who don't know, Jen runs the
and Jen forgets.
Jen, yeah, there you go. So if you want to comment, there's how you do it. But if you want to ask any questions tonight, when we have guests, I normally don't cut away to questions or comments because I don't want to break the guest's train of thought. But tonight you're welcome to break.
Yes, because we have nothing prepared.
Fragile train of thought. Oh, we can talk. I mean, we can. You just poke me, Jen, with something. You know me. I can rant for 30 minutes. Although I'm not doing politics.
But I don't want to poke you with certain things.
No, it's better you don't poke me with certain things. Or I'll just go. But I can do that about UFOs as well. I can go on a rant about anything, as you know full well. So what's new in the paranormal world?
Yes, you need to talk to him about Virgin Forest, Mister.
Oh my goodness, I don't know if I should talk about that. I will tell you something. Virgin Forest is a film that I wrote and produced in Cleveland a number of years ago. It's for people who are familiar with horror films from the late 60s and 70s, like Rosemary's Baby or Wicker Man. It's kind of in that type of, line of dramatic occult storytelling. And we've had the director of the film on in the past as well, Kerry Pryor, who's a very good friend of mine. It's another really fun show that we did. He directed, he also produced, and a very good friend of mine now in San Francisco, then in Los Angeles, Stephen Wallace also produced. And that's where I met Ed. Ed was cast in one of the leads. He was a joy to work with. And I won't say a lot about Virgin Forest because at the moment we're still trying to sell it and various other things, but I'll tell a little story about Ed. When we made that film, Ed and his wife were just lovely people. And I remember sitting down in the lunchroom with Ed. And then I didn't know anything about Ed's background as a psychic priest or an exorcist for Ed and Lorraine Warren. But I remember having lunch with him one day and just thinking, this guy is switched on. Like he just seemed one of those polymath guys who knew a lot about a lot, And then when we started talking weird, I got, I think, an email or a Facebook message or something from Ed going, I used to be the psychic priest, right? And I'm like, I had no idea you used to be the psychic priest. So that's how we moved into having Ed as ours. We just determined one of our most regular guests. So there you go. We were thinking, Mothman, of going to the Van Meter Visitor Fest. It's soon too, I think. We were throwing that idea around recently.
The thing is we already have a guest booked for that Saturday night. So
we can still do it from Van Meter.
I guess
the problem is too, because Jen and I have children and we're essentially single parents, we can only ever coordinate trips away when neither of us have our
we have to figure
children,
out
because we both have primary placements. So it's, gosh, yeah, that's right. Ed did have a stroke. I didn't know it was after the first day of shooting.
Goodness.
That's if we, in the directors or producers or writers commentary of Virgin Forest, we'll start to talk about the curse of Virgin Forest. And one of those things will be that one of our leads had a stroke after one day of shooting the film. Tell you what, there were some days I felt like I was going to have a stroke. Not making light of your situation, Ed, but yeah, independent film's a stressful thing. That's for dang sure. Yes. My life in the North Woods is far more peaceful than when I was more engaged in independent filmmaking. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's absolutely for sure. But yeah, so we anyway, back to the point, we can't, it's harder for us to get away, Mothman 46, often on the same weekend to go to an event. But we
Yeah.
were talking about Van Meter quite seriously.
Mm.
Oh, hang on. You seem to know what weekend Van Meter is, Jen, because you said we have a
The
guest.
25th, because on the 25th we have.
Hold it down a little. I can't see the title. No, drop the paranormal encounters and go up now so we can see the author. I can't remember who you booked this guest. Oh, is it Connor Biddle? Yeah, okay, that's right. That'll be fun. That'll be a good show.
Yep, I've got to.
You can always do it from a hotel room in Van Meter, though, I guess.
Start reading it now.
You better read that book.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the joys of doing a podcast like this when you have authors on. You get to sample books that you mightn't otherwise have read. And especially, we haven't. What was the last author we had on, though? Was Joshua Kuchin the last author we had on? We hadn't, because we had Zach and Lona.
No, Kristen.
Sorry?
Kristen had a book.
But did we? I don't think we did her after.
She was after Josh.
Was she really?
Right after.
Gosh, I lose track.
And then.
But anyway, when we have authors, when you do author every week, you've always got to find that time in the week to read the book. But we haven't had any for a couple of weeks, so I haven't been making sure I'm racing to read a book.
Right. So I think after that one we have a documentary, and then
you booked a lot of the guests for the next month and a half.
And then we have.
I'm normally the booker, but you've become the booker lately. I failed in my booking duties.
Well, I've finally gone through my friends list. I will take advantage of that, huh? Now we do have it was the weekend before Halloween. We have Dave Spinks. This is like his newest book.
That'd be cool.
Anybody knows who Dave Spinks is? He's been around for a while. He's got tons of books though, but this is his newest one.
Who else have we got coming up that you're super excited about?
Well, I'm excited about next week as long as it pans out. I mean, I think so far it's going to happen. I don't know if I should say anything yet, but
sure, you can say who
I was hoping to meet her this weekend, but gosh darn it, that didn't happen. She's in Lexington this weekend.
We have another regular guest on Halloween. That's probably the only person I've booked in the next month and a half, and that's Heidi Erickson. We've had her twice before. She's going to be tying with Ed. If we don't get Ed on, she'll be.
That's true.
3 times of Heidi as long as 3 times. Of Ed. Heidi's a lot of fun though.
I love her. She's
Heidi's another great guest. So I
especially love the conversations afterwards.
I think last time it went a little political afterwards, and Heidi and I were.
I was
and you were just being very polite. And
let's stop.
I had my political antennas up, and Heidi had hers up, and we were.
She's a good sport, though.
We were disagreeing on a few things, but I love Heidi. She's awesome. So
yeah,
I don't think that will stop another fun show because she's always filled.
We should record afterwards. Because then those are
that's something, it's something maybe we should talk to people about now. We often will talk to the guest after the show, and some guests will just go, fair enough. We don't tell them to hang around, but some guests will hang around after. And then some guests will just say, oh, thanks for having us. And we'll say, thanks for coming on. And okay, bye. But there'll be guests who hang around and do another 30 minutes to an hour with us. And we're not broadcasting. And sometimes that stuff's crazier than the show. It can be. It can get super entertaining. I'm often like, man, we should have recorded the second hour. But you never know how it's going to go. So well, I think this is a question
that's a good question. For me.
So the question was, have you ever seen a ghost before?
She probably means like an apparition. Because ghosts come in several different types of forms. So,
but have you seen one? So yes, that implies
right. That would be an apparition. As far as I know, I don't think I have. But the problem is, I get confused with my dreams and reality. So, I've stayed at a friend's house when I was younger, actually here in Warrensburg, and she had a spirit in her home, and I was sleeping at her house, And I woke up and there was this lady in her room that was staring at me. And she said a couple things to me. Of course, I can't remember what it was. So then I cuddled up closer to my friends, wishing and hoping she'd go away. And then when my friend woke up, I told her about it. And she said, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. So
Gosh.
maybe that was a ghost. But when I've gone on investigations, I have not seen like a legit apparition on an investigation. I can see them in my mind's eye and hear them and feel them, but I can't like see them like what's his name off of that movie, Sixth Sense.
I see dead people.
I see dead people. I don't see dead people.
Well, I think it's interesting your point then that you said there's that difficulty sometimes for you to determine whether it was a dream or whether it was whether it was real. And I know certainly sometimes when you first started talking to me about your experiences, I also was like, is this a dream Jen was having, or was this a real? Because they tend to blur in your memories, but I think that's part of that broader imaginal esoteric golden strain kind of tradition. In the modern Western world, we tend to make this very sharp delineation between imagination and between factual reality, between the spiritual and the physical. But I think in older traditions, shamanic traditions would be a classic example. A lot of this communication with the other world was in this somewhat dream state, or this liminal state between this reality and the other reality. So I think the fact that so many of your experiences are difficult for you to determine whether it was dream or whether it was waking state or whether it was real or whether it was imaginal is just because that's the language that we use today. I think if it was 1,000 years ago, that language probably, and certainly if it was in a pre-modern non-Western culture, you probably wouldn't have seen you probably wouldn't have made that delineation between, I'm not sure if it was a dream or whether it was real.
So. I think that's where I like to prefer to stand, because it's harder to accept, oh, I actually saw something. So, it was a dream. Because that's kind of what I've been told my whole life when I would have nightmares. Right. Because I literally slept. I'm going to have to get after my daughter because I can hear her.
I could hear Josie yelling as well.
Hey, Jenna, tell Josie to be quiet, because I know Jenna, she's probably talking to Jenna's daughter. So anyways, now when I was a kid, I had nightmares all the time, and I would feel things in my room. I would see things. And so my parents, to make myself feel better, would tell me, oh, that was just a dream. So that's just something I've always told myself, that's just a dream. So that's my kind of a coping mechanism, is it was just a dream. So.
Yeah, certainly when I was a child, I would have regular bedroom visitations. And as an adult, you tend to look back and go, well, that was just, I do. I mean, I just dismiss all of that as, childhood imagination.
That's what you're told to do.
Yeah, but ironically, I'm somebody who constantly talks about this problem of making this hard delineation.
I was on my couch watching, sorry.
between the two. So I would see like big black dogs in my room. I would see, all kinds of strange figures and things in my room, but it's difficult now to go back and think. It seemed real. It seemed ontologically real at the time. It seemed realer in some ways than anything else.
Yeah. So. Well, today when Josie and I were looking through a couple of things, checked out an antique shop, and just because she was going crazy and I was kind of going crazy, so we just kind of stepped in a couple of places and made sure it wasn't too busy. Because we're supposed to be quarantining, so kind of have to watch yourself. So we stepped in, and there was a magazine, and I pointed out to Josie. I said, "This is the kid that I used to have nightmares about." And you know who it was? It was the kid off of the Mad magazine. So there was a little area in this antique
Alfred E.
shop
Newman,
full of these Mad magazines, and all it did was put me back to when I was 8 years old.
Gosh,
I had nothing but nightmares.
What me worry?
Huh?
That's what he used to say, Alfred E. Newman. What me worry. That was his catch tag, right? The Mad Magazine kid, Alfred E. Newman.
No,
What me
literally,
worry.
he freaks me out so much that I don't like to even hear anything about him. That was just so much.
Next time we're
I
together, I'm
probably
going
knew
to
that at one time in my life. And he just
in
made me
the
feel
in the middle of
uncomfortable
the
for
night.
that.
Next time you're sleeping next to me, I'm going to say, "What me
Don't do
worry?
it.
What me worry?" I
I
never
think
thought of
my
him being
brothers
scary, but I
must have
guess he's a
gotten
little
that
creepy.
magazine when I was a kid or something. I don't know.
I think
Sorry.
I think things that as entertaining as I'm sure Josie's screaming is to our audience, our
Oh, she
response to
stopped
it,
a
I'm
little
going to
bit.
ignore it. I think when you're little, things that look distortedly human, like Alfred E. Newman, who's very caricaturish, can be disturbing. I know when I was a kid, I had a gollywog in my. They're probably not. They're probably politically incorrect. You probably can't even say gollywog or have them anymore. I don't know. But I know as a child of the 70s, like almost every child of the 70s, I had a gollywog in my room. And I've never told this story on Talking with Alfred E. Newman. See, Ed Schultz knows. But the gollywog in my room, which would sit, I don't know, on a chair or something in the corner, like out of a horror movie, it would scare the bejeebers out of me. Like at night, it really bothered me because it's kind of a caricature of humanity. It's not like a teddy bear, which isn't us. It's something which is human, but kind of stranger looking, just like Alfred E. Newman with a larger hand and larger hair. And anyway,
Mhm.
the gollywog bothered me a lot. And I used to have nightmares about gollywogs. Recurrent nightmares about gollywogs. You
Yeah.
know when my nightmares about gollywogs stopped?
What?
Steve Austin, the Bionic Man, who was one of my heroes as a child. I had a dream that me and Steve Austin were like
Yeah.
fighting the gollywogs and we won thanks to the Bionic Man, Lee Majors, Steve Austin. And I had no more scary gollywog dreams.
Huh.
Which is like my weird alien abduction. It's funny that just came to me. My weird alien abduction story I tell sometimes, which wasn't an alien
Yeah.
abduction. My other recurrent nightmare as a child, which incidentally seemed much realer than the gollywog dreams, which never felt like anything other than a dream, was
Yeah.
I think I've told it on the show at least once before, but it was when this little man used to come and take me away recurrently when I was small, and he would take me to this place which was very strange. It was all these very tall. Well, I guess when you're a little kid, everybody seems very
Everything's
tall. 'Cause you're
tall.
always at
Yeah.
like knee height or something, right? So you're looking up. But there were all these very tall beings. And I remember going to one set of legs that I thought was my mom and tugging on it. And then this face like bent down, like right next to my 4-year-old dream face. And it was not human at all. Terrifying. And then that dream, I had those kind of dreams for, I don't know, who knows when you're 4-ish, 5-ish, how long they lasted for. It seemed a long time when I was a little kid. And it only stopped when one night the little man came to take me away. And I knew I wasn't coming back if I went with the little man this time. I knew. And when I said the little man, he was like this weird little goblin-y thing. He was about my size. And I remember, as much as I remember anything physically from my childhood, I remember wrestling and having a physically exertive combat situation with that little man on my bed, like rolling around with him and beating him, or at least being able to physically prevent him from taking me. And after I did that, I never had a dream about the little man who came and took me away again. That was the last time I ever
So
had
that's
that
your
dream.
UFO kind of thing?
Well, I mean, when I started,
Maybe.
I don't anymore, but certainly when I first became interested in alien abductions, before I became the Keelian, Valayan, Harpery,
Right.
kind of, this isn't a physical extraterrestrial thing.
Mhm.
I became interested in the UFO phenomenon as an adult. I hadn't been interested for a long time. I was interested as a child. I had all of these,
Yeah.
different kids type UFO and monster books, but and I'd seen Close Encounters and ET, of course. So I was interested as a kid, but as an adult, I hadn't thought about it for a long time. So maybe sometime after my bachelor's degree, I think it was between my BA degree and my master's, I became interested, and there was a big cultural resurgence. So Bud Hopkins' books were big.
Yeah.
Whitley Strieber's Communion had already been out.
Oh,
That
well,
was
yeah, that
big
did it.
too. And this stuff was, and I started reading, and Bud Hopkins and Jacobs, the American historian, had done this poll in America. They'd run, it wasn't Gallup, but it was some semi, or probably a serious polling organization they'd employed to poll how many Americans had been abducted. And they had questions in this survey or in this poll, which was like, do you ever have any dreams of flying? Da, 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 da. You know, was there any time? And anyway, a lot of the things in that poll, when I read it, I was like, yeah, I had a lot, I have a lot of those things. And I remembered the little man dream, which seemed very similar to the traditional supernatural kidnap narrative or alien abduction narrative about a diminutive being coming and taking you somewhere which seemed unearthly. And so my mind then, when I was in my, I guess, I don't know, my early to mid 20s, was like, good grief, I'm an abductee. And it's not like I went and got hypno-regression or I wrote a tell-all book or anything like a lot of abductees would do. But when I say I'm an abductee, I was never 100%
You were
sure.
worried you were an abductee, or
Sorry, or I did what?
you were worried that
Yeah, I was concerned I might have been an abductor. I thought that it was a possibility. And then, I eventually realized that was just a very literal way of thinking about something which was probably my psyche working out something when I was younger. But again, we come to that place where if you believe in alien abductions as a physical phenomenon where there's creatures from another planet coming here to run tests on people or whatever, you have to look at it as a physical literalism. But a skeptic would say, well, it's all a delusion, but maybe it fits into that imaginal realm in between. Maybe my experience is because they still say it's some of my earliest memories. They were so potent on me, those dreams or whatever was happening at night, that I remember it as clear as anything, probably clearer than 99% of anything else when I was that age. So maybe there is this imaginal space that we slip into. Maybe I was abducted in the same sense that anybody else who remembers this stuff was abducted. Maybe it wasn't that a little alien was coming to take me somewhere weird, or some member of the fair folk was coming to take me to fairyland. It might be that this is an experience that people go through in this imaginal state, not imaginative, not meaning the way we say, oh, it's all in your imagination, dismissing it the way we do in the West. But there might be this imaginal borderland, this liminal place, which seems as real as anything else, and that sometimes we experience. And whether that's all here, it could be. Whether there's an external involvement, who knows? But it's certainly something I still think about.
So was that something when you were dreaming, or you're saying that you actually experienced it when you were awake?
I'm saying that how do I tell the difference? Because I was 4 and 5 or that kind of age range. To me, it feels as real as a real experience, right? A lot of it, certainly the wrestling match does, but because I remember it very clearly. But that could have been a dream, because when you're that age, you don't differentiate perhaps as much between the real and the unreal. Maybe, as Ed Schultz just commented, maybe it could have been an astral projection or something similar. But maybe even astral projection is part of this imaginal space. Who knows? I don't know.
That's one thing that I've always figured when I dream, because I've always had very vivid dreams. I've got probably 4 or 5 dream journals, and they're crazy to read. And they're from my 20s. So my 20s, it was just like a ridiculous amount of dreams. So when I was younger, I didn't keep a journal. So since he mentioned like astral projection, and I told you how I was sick this week, and I took a nap, and it was the oddest thing. My body felt like it was vibrational. So I'm just laying there, and I could feel this nice little hum going around. And then I was like, gosh, do I have a fever? What's going on with me? But sure. And I kept going in and out of my sleep. And then I hear the trash truck, and I thought, it's the trash truck. So I'm going to go back to sleep. So I go back to sleep. And then I feel it again, and I'm like, gosh, this is kind of cool. And then I just lay there for a little while, and I kind of wake up in between, and then I'm like, I wonder if that's the trash truck again. So I listen. I mean, my eyes are not open. I'm just like in between. And I listen and I'm like, oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. So, okay. So I just let myself go right back into it. And it was a tingling sensation. It was warm and it was weird. I mean, it kind of felt like feverish at the same time, but at the same time, it was like I'm on a different level. And at the same time, I felt like I was above my body and I was just laying there. I told you that I felt like I was separated from my body. It's a cool sensation, which is weird is that I've had it before in the past when I was younger, but I haven't had it in quite a while. So I kind of interested to know what brings that on. I don't know why I did that, but all week long, I've had nothing but muscle aches. That's why they're like, oh, you might have COVID. So I got tested. Muscle aches have not gone away. They're really bad, actually. So I don't know what's going on with me, but that whole, to me, was an astral projection because I was literally laying above my body, like I could feel myself above myself. So that's cool.
It is cool. I think that historically, in an occult or esoteric or religious tradition, often to enter a different psychic state requires you to enter a different physical state. So the altered state of the mind or the spirit is often thought to be a result of or part of the altered state of the body. It's the way monks used to flagellate themselves, or it's the way that, a shaman might take ayahuasca to have another experience. As Ed Schultz just said, similar to near-death experiences, I think, yes, when the physical body goes through this type of state, this change in its normal state, there are also, and somebody who was a complete skeptic would say, well, obviously your brain's overheating, or there's a total physiological explanation.
I didn't have fever. I checked myself.
You did or you didn't, did you say?
Mm-mm.
But I mean, the illness alone, and so I do think to a degree it's physiological, but I think to just end the conversation there doesn't necessarily take into account something which more complicated might be happening. And Jenna just said she'd had similar type experiences. I know that, and this isn't necessarily particularly esoteric, but I remember one of the sickest periods I felt in my adult life, I would have been, I guess, in my early 30s. And I had this, I very rarely in my adult life have I been unable to get out of bed. You know what I mean? To be that sick. I'm thankful my health is, has been pretty good. And Ed just said theta brainwave frequency. Yeah, that's, well, Ed knows about these things, so possibly. But I know that when I was so sick I could hardly get out of bed for days and days and days, I started to dream ways I've never, if they were what I think Jung might call a big dream. They weren't your normal kind of dream. The dreams I was having, I was dreaming, and I'm not a mathematician at all. I was dreaming in numbers, and I was dreaming in shapes and patterns, and it wasn't like a normal dream. It seemed to have nothing to do with me as a person. It wasn't like I was, I'm back in high school and I forgot to take the test and I'm going to fail, or it wasn't like a normal kind of weird dream, right? It had nothing to do with me as the individual. It was patterns and imagery. And I even remember, it sounds bizarre, but old Inca temples and all of this swirling geographic and, mathematical. And I was super sick. And then when I finished the illness, I had this idea for a screenplay. It seemed like it was channeled. And I wrote a screenplay, and I think I'm a fairly decent writer, but I think the screenplay I wrote as a result of an image I had when I was in that fevered or sick state, it felt like it didn't come from me. It felt like it was, people talk sometimes about feeling that something's channeled, or it seemed like it was downloaded, the story that I wrote. It didn't seem like it originated from.
That's cool.
So that's not quite as esoteric as, astral projection or seeing a ghost next to the bed or being abducted, but something different to my normal experiences, both physically and intellectually and everything else, took place during that illness. So
Yeah.
I do think sometimes it cuts down, this barrier between those states.
Oh,
I think Christopher was asking. I'm very sad that your friends passed away, but I don't think I'm certainly unable to give any kind of a reading or anything. That's not.
Yeah, that's something I don't do that stuff anymore. Ugh.
Yeah, I know you had troubles when you did those kind of things in the past.
I don't open myself up to that anymore.
Yeah, and I never could, so there's nothing I could do to help.
I try to keep that far
away
friend. As possible. It's because I don't know how to control it. So my control is stay away, because I've had so many bad experiences with it. So if I can find somebody that teaches me how to deal with it properly, then sure, I'll open myself up again. I used to do readings, but that was a long time ago. So I can't help with that at all. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
Hi, Roku. I see. Pete.
Oh, Pete. Well, another one of our favorite guests of all time. And you can also catch Talking Weird, because we stream it on Facebook and the Talking Weird YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But it's also on a channel that Pete
manages. I want to believe.
So that we also stream there. Check it out. They have some other cool content on there as well, because Pete does a podcast once a week, or a live stream, or whatever you want to call them these days. So yeah, the I Want to Believe YouTube channel is dead. So's Pete's book that he wrote with Jason Hewlett, another great guest we've had on a couple of times.
I have it over here somewhere.
That's We Want to Believe, not to be confused with I Want.
No.
Is that no?
No.
What's it called? I get confused.
No.
What is it? What's it called? I can't. My vision. Oh, it's I Want to Believe.
Yes, it's the the YouTube.
The YouTube series is We Want to Believe, and the channel is I Want to Believe. Sorry, Pete and Jason, if you're listening.
So.
Yeah, it gets. But that's a very cool book, and Pete's a cool guest. If anybody's interested in hearing somebody who's had all kind of paranormal, ghostly experiences, go back and listen to our interview with Pete. We Want to Believe is our show. Jen corrected me. I made that mistake when Jason was on as well, Peter. So the we and the I get them confused.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a daughter that has walked in the room.
That's all right. We've probably can, unless anybody has anything they really want to know about us, we can probably wind down now. Anyway, I think it seems like a fulfilling show, and a very sad show at the beginning, of course. And once again, if anybody out there knows Johnny Henderson, or knew Johnny Henderson, or would like to help his family now. And he really was a great guy. Like I said, I didn't know him really well, but I always had a great sense about him, and he was a great guest. And he's left two youngish children, I think probably in their 20s or late teens. I'm not sure. So if you want to help, go to PayPal and just look for Cryptid Studies as one word, I think, or Cryptid Studies Institute at gmail.com on PayPal, and the Johnny Henderson Cryptid Studies account will pop up. And if you can help pay for his funeral, because I think it's in like 2 days or something, and I'm sure
it's very
two
bad.
Kids without a mother just by themselves now are probably struggling to try to work out how to even hit that bill, because like most of us in these crazy times, there isn't a whole lot of cash floating around in people's bank accounts. So if you can't afford it, I get it, but if you got a little bit to spare and you could help them, that would be fantastic.
Fast hour.
It did go fast. It was fun though. It was except for the beginning, which was sad. I always love chatting to you babies, just to be able to talk about whatever we want to. So
yeah,
thanks for another great show. I don't know if you have anything to add before we sign out.
I don't think so. I do have a daughter that's using her geode stone as her eyeball.
Well, there
you
go.
Oh, she's like, here, show my. Okay.
Oh,
of course, there's my camera's doing weird stuff, but
they're gonna look super weird with your camera.
Oh, and there's a piece. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
That was about like $5.
Yes. Shh.
Well, I guess until next week, baby. Keep it weird.
I guess so. We'll keep it weird. You have to wait a minute. I'm trying to find our little area so you can keep
That's
talking.
And thanks to everybody for commenting and chatting with us. It was much appreciated.
Okay, I found it. All right. Night all.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it weird.